Hello and thank you for purchasing the Grid Gallery Shopify section by qwiqode. In this video, I'll be showing you how to use it. With this section, you can add multiple images to a gallery in the form of a carousel. Let's start by adding some custom images to the section. For this, we have two options, to add them as a single image or as a group of images. I'll add first a single image by clicking the single image block on the left sidebar. Then I can select an image from my library. Okay, now let's add a group of images by clicking the block on the left sidebar. On this block, we have multiple options. The first one is media dimensions, and with this, we can control the layout of that group of images. For example, by default is 4 square images, but you can select it to be 3 images, with the first one being landscape and 2 squares, 3 images with 2 squares on top and landscape below, or you can select 2, so it will be landscape and landscape, or portrait and portrait. For this example, I'm going to use the 4 square images. I'll add some images. Okay. There's an option to adjust the gap between images in the section settings, but if you want to add a specific gap for this group of images, you can enable this custom gap and adjust the gap using this field. For example, right now it's 10 pixels, but you can make it 0, and then all images will look like this. But on this example, maybe I'm gonna use 20 pixels like this. Okay, then we have the same option for mobile. You can select this and adjust that gap using this field, okay? Let's go back to desktop. Okay, I'll add some extra images to the gallery using different combinations, and I'm going to speed up the process. Okay, so it's looking pretty good for me, so I'm gonna leave it like that. But if you need to rearrange the order of the blocks, you can do it by drag and drop. For example, I can move this like this. So it's the second block. And you can make your own combinations. Now that we added all images, let's head over to the section settings. On the section settings, we have multiple options. The first one is for adding text. So maybe we can add something like this. Okay, then we have the carousel settings. On the carousel settings, we have the slides to show. Right now it's 2, but you can add up to 6. But on this example, I really like 2, okay? And then we have the same setting for mobile. The default is 1, but you can add 2, okay? Let's go back to desktop. Then right now, even though we see 2, we see a little bit of the next one is because we have enabled the show overflow of items. If we disable this, you only see 2 of them. But I really like that effect, so I'm gonna keep it enabled. And we also have this option to advance the entire row. Right now it's clicking 1 by 1, but if you enable this, it will advance the amount of slides to show. For example, right now it's 2. So with this enable, it will slide 2 of them. For example, if we have 3, it will expand 3 by 3. But on this example, I'm gonna leave it like 2 and keep it 1 by 1. Then we have the infinite scroll. When this is enabled, the carousel, we have an endless loop. So when it reaches the last slide, it's gonna repeat again. So maybe I'm gonna leave it like that because I really like that effect. Then we have some styling for the carousel arrows. The first one is the line color. So maybe we can add it white and background color to be something like this. Then we have an option to add a custom arrow on the left and on the right. For example, if you have an icon, right now I don't have any arrow icons, but let's say we have an icon in here. You can add it as a left toggle and the same on the right side. But on this example, I really like the default ones, and also I don't have any custom ones, so I'm gonna leave it like this. Then we have the carousel arrows distance from edge. With this, we can control this distance. Right now, the position of arrows is inside of wrapper and 30 pixels. So if you see here, the edge is 30 pixels from that distance. So if we add more in here, it will be 110 pixels from the edge. Okay, and you can also move those arrows outside the wrapper. For example, if I enable this, you see they're outside. But if I make this bigger, that 30 pixels is from the outside of this edge. So I can add more distance, for example like this, and you'll see it on a bigger screen, that distance. But I really like it to be inside, so I'm gonna leave it like that and around this distance. Then we have some mobile options. On mobile, those arrows aligned at the bottom like this. So this range controls that distance from the images. And then we have the gap between arrows. So you can adjust the distance between them using this range. Okay, so maybe on this example, I'm gonna use 1 slide to show on mobile. Okay, let's go back to desktop. Then we have some media styling. We have the images border radius. With this, you can control the corners of the images. Then we have the gap between images, and then the gap between images on mobile. If you remember, on this group of images, we added a custom gap. Okay, so that's why it looks different than the others. But if we want to have the same distance, we can disable that custom gap. With that disabled, now is the same distance between all of them. Let's go back, and then we have the section styling. The first option is section width, so it's full width with a content max width of 1280. So that means the section is full width, but the content is going to expand only up to 1280. Okay, so maybe if I add a background color, you'll see that it's full width, but with the content up to 1280. If you want to expand the content all the way to the edges, you can enable this real full width. So this will ignore the content max width. So with that enabled, you'll see that it reach all the way to the edges. Maybe you see this distance right here because the section has some padding, and the padding is the distance from the edge but from the inside. Let me show you. If we go to the padding settings, we'll see that right now the horizontal padding is 20, but if we put 0 and we go back, you'll see that the content is expanding all the way without any distance. Let's go back, okay? And then we have the same for the top and the bottom, okay? And then we have the top and bottom margin. This distance is from the outside, okay? So if you want more distance, you can use this range, and you can do the same with the bottom. And we also have the section border radius, okay? So if you want to adjust those corners, you can use this range. Then we have the same settings for mobile. And then right here we have the section header styling. The first option is the header position. Right now it's inside of the wrapper, but we also have an option to use it outside of wrapper. But this outside of wrapper option is only available when using regular width. Let me show you. If I add this outside of wrapper, you'll see that nothing changes. But if I go to regular width, you'll see that we put the text outside of the wrapper. Okay, so that text is outside of the area with the color. But I really like it to be inside, so I'm going to keep it full width and keep this inside of wrapper. Next, we have the section header max width. Right now it's 100% of the wrapper, but if you need to adjust this to be very narrow, you can do it using this range. I'm going to keep it at 100 because I want to expand all the way horizontally. Then we have the section title styling. You can align the text to the left, center, or right. You can also adjust the color, okay? And then you can use a custom font, enable this, and choose a font from the list. Then we have the custom font family name. This is useful when using a custom font on your theme. Let's say you are loading at Helvetica, so we can add that custom font. Then we have the font weight. The first one is very thin, 100, and you can add it up to 900 to be very bold. But for now, I'm going to leave it default. And also, I really like the custom font, so I'm going to remove this and leave it like this. Then we have the section title top margin and bottom margin. Right now, it's 10 pixels. Maybe you see more because the section has padding, okay? But you can adjust that up here. But if you want to add extra margin, you can do it using this range. Then we have the font size, and then we have the line height. The line height is the distance between characters. Right now, you don't see it because everything is on the same line. But for example, if this was 2 lines like this, that line height controls the distance between those characters vertically. But I'm going to keep it at 0 because I like the default from my theme. I'm going to put this back on 100. Okay. Then we have the letter spacing. And this is the distance between characters, but horizontally. For example, if I adjust this, you'll see all the space between the letters. But on this example, I'm going to leave it at 0 because I like how it looks. And then down here, we have the same styling for the text block. Center, left or right, custom fonts. So maybe we can select something like this. Font weight, maybe a little bolder. And then we have the margins. Maybe we can make this closer like this. And then the line height and little spacing, okay? And maybe the font size can be a little smaller. And let's add a different color. Okay, let's reduce a little bit this distance. Okay, and then add a little more space at the bottom. Okay, cool. I really like the result, so I'm going to save. And that's it. Thank you again. If you have any questions or if you run into any issues, please don't hesitate to contact us via our support page on our website. Thank you and take care.